So I want you to start out getting into a place that feels good. Sit comfortably, and there are some places in the davening that are special places. Maybe you have a certain sense of what they feel like. I have certain places. Whatever they are, whatever that place is. So utilize the fact that that's there in you, that you have access to that place. So that when we're learning tonight, that we're much more connected, because at that deeper place, we're all connected. So take a few moments to get centered, to get present. Whatever happened on the way to get here, all the stuff, all the people, all the streets, it all kind of fades into the background, and the whole purpose was to get here, to be here where we are right now. Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is with us before we get here, during our traveling, and when we get here. But the time to kind of really feel that level of Hashem's presence in our lives is when we actually sit down. That's what yeshiva is. Sitting down is a contemplative mode. It's not walking, it's not running, it's not lying down. It's in between. Sitting down, there's a statue of Le Pensier, I think it's called in French, the thinker. Sitting down, introspecting. Be aware of your breathing, every detail of your being, the cells in your body, whatever discomforts you have, just to really smooth it all out into a total overriding awareness of being here. Appreciation. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Even though the world is spinning around at 1,000 miles a minute or a second, we don't feel it. It's calm. Miracles happening every second. We're not even aware. So, in this deeper place, it's not like that I have to count my miracles and think about them. It's just that it is miracle. I am in miracle. I am in a higher level of awareness where I can just appreciate that all this could not exist were it not for an incredible creator who's made the world the way he did. There's a Gemara in Sukkah, I think it's 52a. It says when Hashem shows the Yetzer Hara to the Reshaim, to the evil, to the wicked ones, the ones who fell into the trap of just doing whatever they wanted and doing worse and worse and falling into that trap. So when Hashem shows them the Yetzer Hara is just a hair, they'll be so surprised they couldn't have overcome it. And when he shows the same Yetzer Hara to the tzaddikim, they'll see it as a mountain. And they'll say, how did we possibly overcome it? So the fact that it's a hair is very interesting. It's something that binds us and traps us, and we get caught in it. We think we're no good, or we think that we get into negative thought patterns. And it's like this little hairs, and if we really wanted to, we could just be able to snap those hairs and come back into ourself, into a deeper level of ourself. I cut out a picture from a book that I have. It's a picture from the story called Gulliver's Travels. Mm-hmm. And so you see that the place is called Lilliput, the Lilliputians. And they have him tied down. And his hair, which means his thoughts, and his hands and his legs and his body. And basically, with one moment of will, he could get up, but we don't. This is us. So if you see it as a metaphor for us, right? We get caught in things, and if we look at them, in the metaphor that I use, it's Mitzrayim. We get caught in Paro's dream and in Paro's mentality, slave mentality, and then Moshe Rabbeinu comes down. He came up to Sinai, and he comes down into Mitzrayim, and he tells us, like, you guys could get out. I can take you out. I can help you to get out. And we don't believe it. And then, like, he does these 10 things that Hashem does through him to free our mentality. It's like a detox. It's a what do they call it? When you get into a cult, you get out of a cult is to be deprogrammed. Oh, wow, we thought like Paro was in control, and we see Hashem is doing these powerful things and waking us up that this is not us. And that's how Moshe takes us out of Mitzrayim and brings us up to here into the desert and up to here to Mount Sinai, right? And we can look down on what was trapping us then, and we can like, it's like hairs, it's like nothing. Well, what's that? There's no reality to it. Paro has no reality. It's just a lot of bright lights that make us feel that he has power over us. So I wanted to start with that. Now, in terms of Sod, in terms of the teachings of Sod, so there are names for these different levels. And when you go straight to the top, there's a bunch of names that all kind of give over the essence of this higher state. I think some of you might have left over from previous classes. And if not, I can find some here to give to you. There's these sets. I have one. I have a few left. So whoever didn't get these here, who doesn't have?
Forgot to bring it.
Okay, so just before we go any further, we're going to do a little bit of naming. So you see that the chart goes from the right to the left. The numbers go from 1 to 13, 1 to 14. At the top is the name of the particular ma'arechet, the particular system that we're talking about. The far right is Shem Havaya, Hashem's name. So you see at the top, Kotz Yod. And then below that Yod, and below that Hey, and below that Vav, and below that Hey. And that's the source of everything we have.
What is Kotz?
Kotz can be translated as spike or hair. Usually we say it's the tip or the apex of the Yod. It's more of a concept, and it doesn't take up any. It doesn't have spatial dimensions. It's really, in a sense, it's such a high level that everything is happening within that level, and all the letters are there in that high level in potential, and then they come down as letters. Even the Yod itself is also tremendously compacted, and it's before it opens up from potential to actuality. The Hey is the opening up into dimensionality. The Vav is reaching down even further. The Hey, so there's a whole movement here, but just for the moment, very simple. The next line over, the next one is called Milui in Hebrew, called fillings, where you fill in the letters of Hashem's name, and there's 4 different fillings, 4 official fillings. Because there's a lot of variations possible, because you can spell Hey 3 different ways. And you can spell Vav 3 different ways. So since 3 of the letters of Hashem's name are Hey and Vav, Hey twice and 1 Vav, so you can get a number of combinations. The official combinations are the first one, corresponding to the Yud. which is every letter is spelled with a hey. The yud is always spelled the same. You can't spell a yud any differently. But the hey is a hey yud, the vav is a vav yud vav, and the hey is a hey yud. But not. I don't only go into this right now. I want to go further along to the next thing, which is called Chilkeh Mitzvah. So here you start from the bottom, and you see that the bottom is called Maaseh, the actual deed of a mitzvah. The level above it is Kol Dibur Regesh, is voice, speech, and emotion. The level above it is called Kavana, which would be almost like directed, focused awareness on the thing that I'm doing right now. The thing above that is Koach Machshava, is the context within which this focused idea is coming from. So it's like I'm doing this particular thing right now, and then I'm focused on it, but there are connections to everything else that are in the background, and I can choose to connect to that level. But that every single deed that I do has a specific meaning, that it also is part of a whole world, until it goes up to what's called Re'ut Deliba, the will of the heart, which in Hebrew is Ratzon Shel Halev, the will of the deepest will of the heart, the deepest core reason why. I would even say it's the reason we exist. So if I connect the deed that I'm doing right now, have a seat. Welcome. If I connect the deed that I'm doing right now up to the whole reason that I exist, it's like I'm plugging my lamp into the wall socket, and now the lamp can light up. The whole reason I exist is now being expressed in this one deed. This one deed is connecting me to the reason that I exist. The whole reason I exist, the whole reason the world exists, is that I can do this one deed right now. So it's very focused, it's very right here on the ground, and yet it's taking me and connecting me to the whole reason I exist. So that's the system of mitzvot. So we see that why there's a speech level of mitzvah, the bracha that we say, and the specific kavanah, the intention or the intent, and that's the bina level. And then the chokhmah level above that, koach hamachshava, the words will come through later, but the point is right now, it's a system of connecting the bottom all the way up to the top and bringing the power of the top all the way into the bottom. Then you get to number 6, Chelkei Neshama, the levels of the soul. So the highest being Yechida, and the lowest being Nefesh. Again, the same idea that we want to bring as much Yechida into our Nefesh. We want to bring our Nefesh and elevate it up to Yechida. There's like a passageway here that I can connect to. And then, basically when I speak, I speak about going up and connecting and bringing down. But after a while, it's right here. There's nowhere to go. It's connecting my Yechida level into my Nefesh level. That it is here. It is the background of my whole ability to be here. But it's in the background, so I'm not aware of it. If I amplify my awareness of that, which is what the little thing that we tried to do at the beginning of this class tonight is, connect to that deeper place inside of us where when we're really doing it, that's where it's coming from. Like when we're really there in the davening and when we really, really know and present with our prayer. So that's one of the words for that, one of the names for it is Yechida. Yechida means that I'm connected to my source. I'm one with my source. There's more to say about all of this, but I just want to do 2 more. So the next one over is number 7, which is today's subject, is the world's Hishtalshelut ha'olamot. Number 7 is the devolution of the worlds from the top down. We're living from the bottom up. Hashem makes the world from the top down. We meet in the middle, and we should know and really know that the top is still here. The whole first thought of Hashem and the way he made the world, the powerful entry point of Hashem into the world is here. the way the Mikubalim describe it is that he actually used the body as a model. As Hashem was only a model, right? But it's a way of talking. Hashem did a tzimtzum and brought all the light that was down here. The whole world is filled with light, his light. There's nothing other than his light. He does a tzimtzum, he constricts his light up to his belly button. Now, there's no belly button and there's no body, but we're using words to help get a certain idea. So there's now what's called an empty space here, a chalala panui. It's a seething energy. It's dark relative to what was light, but it's not nothing. But it's like a womb. And so then Hashem then introduces a less powerful form of light into that womb, like the male energy into the female, and a new universe exists from here down. This is called Atzilut, relative to Adam Kadmon. Then he does the same thing. He lifts up all the light up to the belly button of Atzilut, and there's like this seething level called Tohu in the Torah. You can't put your finger on it. There's like a lot of energy here, but like there's no form. It's not taking form. So you put now light into it, and it's the male energy with the female energy, and it creates forms. It creates a whole world, a universe. So every time there's a tzimtzum, it's a lifting up of the light, and the what's left below is a energy state that's ready to receive light, and it becomes the two of them together become like rain on the earth. The earth gives forth this unbelievable like variation of very variegated forms of flowers and trees and everything you could ever, right? And it's all just like black dirt. It's dirt. It's brown earth. You pick it up and taste it. There's nothing there. A farmer, though, can know what this earth is good for, what this earth, but most of us, no. But the rain and the sun together, being the male force on the female, produce every possible form. So it's an incredible way of looking at it, that every time Hashem brings a new universe into existence, he brings his light back up, and then he only brings down a measured form of that light. So what the Leshem, one of the great teachers, says is that the impression of the light is left every time he brings up. That's the word I didn't mention. I said tohu, I said it's seething energy state, but it's also called a rishimu. It's the light has been taken away, and an impression of the light is still there, but it's not enough to really be anything. It's waiting for the male energy to come in. So the impression of Ein Sof, even when it was lifted up and constricted, contracted, tzimtzum, and left in so-called empty space, it wasn't really empty. The impression of Ein Sof was still there. And then the same thing with this called Adam Kadmon, the next line down, the next one, Atzilut and Bria. Adam Kadmon is, the level of light of Adam Kadmon is still here. The level of Atzilut is still here. The level of Bria is still here. The Yetzirah is still here. Everything is still here. So in a sense, taking away what's preventing us from knowing the presence of the light of the Ein Sof in our lives is not going anywhere. It's rather the taking away of what's stopping us from knowing. So it's a very nice way of looking at it. In my opinion, it's like very, very life-changing. You don't have to go anywhere. You just have to stop preventing yourself from knowing. And so you can go and dip into that place. You can dip into that place. The Kabbalah gives names to it. The names are weird. Names can say, I know what that is. It's called Atzilut. And you say, what's Atzilut? Oh, it means such and such. And you lose it because you think you know what it is. It's a little paradoxical, right? But it's still important to know the names. And it's important to learn. But then it's very important to experience. And then somebody will say, well, you can't experience these things. Most people hold that you can't experience these things. They're just conceptual to us. There's nothing more than just giving us a little bit of an inkling. But I believe that it's possible that through the words of the Hebrew language, which are a Lashon HaKodesh, a holy language, that were given to us by the prophets, right? There's a little bit of a whiff of the real thing in the words. And that's what we want to get to. So The words of Tehillim, the words of Yeshayahu, Yechezkel, all of these things that we're going to see today. All right, let's stop with this. It's good to go through this, and just as a brief thing to know that these are all incredible correspondences, whatever. So then I have in chapter 3 of Inner Space, the worlds. Has anybody never seen this chapter? Huh? We started it, right? But it's a little bit long. It's an important chapter. It's a big transition to the Sfirot. It gives the names. On page 23, it starts with Adam Kadmon. He gives kind of his take on it. He uses the word Ein Sof. He says on page 23, one of the basic axioms of the Kabbalah is nothing can be said about God himself. So that's really actually very important. Because when we're talking about all this stuff, we are talking about the system that Hashem created as almost like a step-down ladder to us and a step-up ladder from us to him. Anything we can put into words, into thought, it's not God. But God is behind and permeates all of it. But don't get fooled by the words and don't get fooled by the thoughts. Behind it all is something that's impossible to put into words. The prophets themselves, when they were in that state, how can I possibly communicate this, what I've just experienced? But that's actually what distinguishes the prophets, as Rabbi Kaplan says later on in the book, what distinguishes the prophets from the mystics, other mystics, is that the prophets were given the job. They were given the specific task of articulating their experiences, even though they knew that there was no way, but they had to do it. So then if you look at when somebody writes, they're writing, they're thinking and they're writing. They're stopping, thinking, writing. And they know that as they write, the letters on the page are being buried like dead people in a cemetery, and they're waiting, and they say, "How could this? It doesn't do justice to what I experienced, and also, who can ever understand it?" So they're waiting that somebody's going to pick it up 2,000 years later and read it, and take it back in, and reconnect to the one who wrote it, and reconnect to the one who gave it to the one who wrote it. And that's called the resurrection of the dead, right? Tchiyat Metim. That's why books are so important to us, because books give us the reconnection back to the one who wrote it and back to the one who gave to the one who wrote it. And that's why books are, again, it's not just like reading for us. So he says you can't say anything about God himself, but what we are talking about is indirectly talking about God. It's like a special Jewish thing that when you're talking about Purim, you're really talking about God, but you're using Purim as the camouflage, the scenes that you've created, the particular drama called Purim. But through Purim, you're speaking directly about God, but everybody else will think you're just talking about Purim. Now, if you start to think that you're just talking about Purim, and you lose out that you're really talking about God, check yourself out. That's what happens to people. The metaphor becomes so strong that God becomes pushed into the background, and all we're talking about is Purim, which is nice. It's a great story. But you see the difference? Is the Jews use stories to talk about things that you can't talk about. And if you forget that you're talking about God, it's still a good story, but it's such a loss. So do that when you're learning Gemara. Do that when you're learning anything. is that what we're really talking about here is God. Hashem, please reveal to me the God level that's in here, however hidden it might be. Yeah.
So there's no set structure to how you got a step up ladder. It's just the consciousness and the awareness, and then the framework in which you absorb the information, as opposed to a set structure.
There is a set structure, but everybody has to experience it themselves. Again, the problem with names, the problem with words, with semantics, as you can tell, you can read the Tanya, and you can read all of the entire system of Chabad. It's a very, very involved and intricate system of levels and sub-levels of how how to connect up to the higher levels. And it's very amazing. And in the Ramchal system, all of it goes back to the Ari, and all of it goes back to the Zohar. In a sense, there's a real well-traveled road. But as you come to discover it yourself through your own experience, before you know the words, it's also good. But in a sense, I would say like this in answer to your question, is there a specific way? I'd say there's a unique thing for each one of us. But when it comes down to it, after all is said and done, and we'll look back, we'll see that all of us followed the same pathway, but in our own unique way. But there's a pathway up to the higher worlds and back into this world with that higher consciousness. So to be a Moshe Rabbeinu, like there's stuff in the Zohar about what he encountered on the way up, what he experienced. Why are they writing these things? They're writing to tell you that somehow all of us have to pass through these different stages. But it'll be done in a way that the scenes change, and the colors will change, and this will change, and that will change, and you won't necessarily know. So there's an inner experience. I believe there's a real objective reality here, but it's filtered always through the subjective reality of our being. Interesting stuff. Good questions. Good questions. Better than the answers, probably. So why you can't talk about God? All you can say, that's what we call God Ein Sof. Actually, after I wrote this, and that's how Rabbi Kaplan spelled Ein in English. I always now say E-I-N. I feel it does better to say E-I-N in English, Ein Sof, but whatever. And it means literally the one without end. Sof is end, boundary. All Samech Pei words are a sfar is a boundary of a country. Sfar, a mispar, which is a cipher in English, is a number. It gives quantity. It cuts. And so also they say even a sapar is a barber who cuts your hair. But even, and it's sefer, of course, all these different words, there are limitations on the light, and they allow you to articulate in a way. And so articulation itself is a breaking up of something into smaller parts. And then Saf itself, or Sof, is a threshold. Al Saf HaPetach, on the threshold of the door. So Ein Sof is that there's no Sof, there's no limit, there's no end, there's no boundary. God is infinite and therefore undefinable and uncharacterizable. Limitless being and existence before the act of creation, even now after it. Even conceptually, there's no category in existence which can define God. That's why the Zohar says, Leit machshava tfisa bach klal. No thought can grasp you whatsoever. Leit machshava tfisa be klal. So once that is said, though, and he's going to repeat it in chapter 4 with the Sfirot, that the Sfirot are like this whole system, and talking about God's hands and God's eyes. God doesn't have hands, God doesn't have eyes. But once we know that he doesn't have anything, then when we do use metaphors like eyes and hands and stuff, we know we're keeping it in mind that we're talking about, again, stories, and using them to talk about that which is beyond. So we're doing a very interesting split thing. Even when we say Adonai, we have Yud Kei Vav Kei in mind. We're supposed to. Because we're doing one thing and using it to get close and clear within the world that we live in to that which is beyond. So if you notice, a lot of Judaism is this kind of thing, is doing one thing and thinking or connecting to the other level. Just an interesting thing. But sometimes there has to be the connection itself to that level. Like we shut up and we don't talk. What do? Most people are not trained. They get bored. If you stop talking, you stop writing, stop doing, stop learning, well, what's there to do? This is called being. But it became pushed into the background. But it has to be there. Well, I could get involved in reading this in terms of just the flow of things. He does an amazing job here. I mean, his mind was just so beautiful and so clear. If anybody has any specific questions, I mean, for sure, we can field them. On 24 is Atzilut. On 25 is Bria. Then comes Yetzirah on 26, and Asiya on 27. So he goes through defining and giving you a sense of a flow of how one becomes the background and the generator of that, the world that comes below it. And we've shown some diagrams where the main diagram that's used is that Asiya is here, Yetzirah is here, Bria is here, Atzilut is here, like a building. And then we showed another one where there were the circles, that the circle of Asiya is here, the circle of Yetzirah is here, the circle of Bria is here, the circle of Atzilut is here, the circle of Adam Kadmon is here. What's the difference between the building where one is on top of the other and this, where one is within the whole context within which the little one exists is this greater context. And I always like to say there's a little door, like in Alice in Wonderland. You have to be very small to go through this door. And when you stand up, you're in the world above you. Even right here in this world, you can have access to those higher worlds. And then the last one was the cones, which is that the upper level goes all the way down into the lowest level. So that we're looking at it from the outside. But if I would see, I'd see that the Asiya, the Yetzirah, Bria, Atzilut, Adam Kadmon, Ein Sof. And if I could enter in. What I want to share with you today, but again, questions are important, so take a minute to think about what you want to, if you want to ask anything, if you want to clarify anything, if you want to talk about anything in class today. Yeah.
We understand that the neshama, our being, is reflected to the 5 volts that we've shown. So in order to get into through the small doors that connect to each one of the higher worlds, that does that necessitate therefore some kind of opening within first? Within
ourselves.
Yeah, something like you said, for example, getting the relationship between the nefesh and the yechida. So I wonder if the Rabbi can explain how that relationship works. How is opening inside gates, getting into the deeper levels of your soul, and therefore how does that correlate to getting to deeper levels of the universe? So
well, just in principle, it came to me just in Elul this year, the end of last year, that I guess I could have known it, and then I really got it, so to speak, in Elul, is that just as Hashem is in relationship to all the universes, that he is the context. He is also the inner immanent light within everything, from the top down to the bottom. And all of the universes and all of the different levels are garments. But he's there at every stage, even in the garments. But the garments allow us to exist. The light is filtered enough so that we exist, and behind that we can, if we focus our attention, we know that behind everything is the oneness of the Creator. So then it occurred to me that I also have all these levels, all these garments of my own being, all the different levels of my own consciousness, my physical, my emotional, my intellectual, etc. Right? And behind that is a me that's there, that's real, that's what's called Chelek Elohim Mimah, a portion of God on high. So I am that oneness behind my own filter system, and that's where I connect to the oneness behind the entire system that's of creation. One meets one. One joins with one. And that meant a lot to me. I don't know if I'm communicating it so clearly, but I was like, wow, that's so beautiful. So it means that I can now look at myself as an entire world of systems within systems, but that within every aspect of that system, and somehow at the core, there's this incredible, powerful sense of real self. And that's where I meet with God. And I would place it in my heart. I would say that here our heart center is that we can go up into our higher brain center. And it's almost, I would like to call this the top of Mount Sinai. But Moshe, it's not by chance that Hashem gave Moshe tablets that corresponds to the hemispheres of our brain, and brought them and put them in to the Holy of Holies in the middle of the Mishkan at the bottom of Sinai, which corresponds to our heart center, right? So that is, it's great to go up here, so to speak, but I really believe that this is more where it has to this is so important. I always used to say when I point to my child at night, in the middle of the night, and I say, it's Daddy, it's Abba, I don't point here. I don't point here. I point here. It's me. This is me. I'm your Abba. Okay. So oneness meets oneness. And with that, like a lot of things become clear. If you can hold that, if you can really take that knowledge as does it make sense to you? So then when I gave a class before today, and I used this and a little bit of what I said tonight, that if we are this higher being, and what happens to us is we get trapped in lower levels, and they're really like just threads. So Gulliver being trapped by the Lilliputians is me being trapped in Mitzrayim. And when I look at it from here, from Mount Sinai, I say, my goodness, like, why did that stop me? Why did I get angry when somebody said that or did that? Like, where was that coming from? Especially if that's what's called disproportionate anger. When my reaction to somebody saying or doing something is disproportionate to what they said. It means that something in me was triggered, something in my nefesh level. So I need my yechida level to help me come out and to be cool, to be clear. Don't worry about it. I'm not being threatened. I'm not being, right? And I need my yechida level. I need to separate my consciousness from the event. I think we mentioned Torah 52 in the Kuti Maharana, Rabbi Nachman's teaching of Itbodedut, of divesting, dissociating from my body, my emotions, my intellect. Then he even goes further, dissociate from the you that you thought was you. And even from that you, and then from that you. And it gets like a little bit like, whoa, where are you taking me, Rabbi Nachman? There's going to be no me. He says, don't worry, you'll come back into all the different yous, but you'll come back with something much, much more powerful. The you that now can utilize all the different systems of who you've been and what you've been brought up to be, and all the different things that were masks that stopped you from being yourself. And all those now become transformed to become parts of the whole you. You don't have to cut anything away. It's very ecological. Okay. But I want to get to this. I want to give this to you. So forgive me. There's 3 here. And there's a few here. If there's not enough, I'll give more. What we want to do is to you already got it? Okay. So the way it seems to me the best to do is page 29 at the bottom in inner space. Those who don't have it, just be patient or share with your partner. Or there's this one here, whatever's good for you. Okay, so page 29 at the bottom. This is my master copy. Ezekiel's vision.
Is you master copy?
Of the one that I make those from.
I noticed for both me and Mordechai, there's a second page here. Where the top is cut. You can't see the top. Just one line.
Also, then write me and tell me which one it is. Ezekiel's vision, another biblical source for alluding specifically to a vision of the 4 lower universes, is the first chapter of Ezekiel. Now, the whole second part of the book is Rabbi Kaplan's a separate class. There's 2 classes here. So there's a class afterwards that was only on Ezekiel's vision. He's bringing it in here, and then he develops it much more. Ezekiel prophesied in Babylon just prior to the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem. His prophecy was on a lower level than that of Moses and Isaiah, but for this very reason is notably more detailed. He quotes a Gemara there from Yevamot. We've mentioned that the prophecy of Moshe was on the level of Atzilut, refracted in Bria. Okay. The source for this is a little footnote at the bottom of page 7, the last page of this set. Well, you have to deal with pages with me. Okay, where's my glasses? Quoting from Sharei Kedusha, Rabbi Chaim Vital, footnote number 3. Moshe Rabbeinu, of blessed memory, was allowed to ascend to the border of Atzilut, i.e., he perceived Atzilut through the transparent medium of the uppermost palace of Bria, called Kodesh Kodashim de Bria, the Holy of Holies. There's 6 palaces, and the highest palace of each world is called Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies of that particular world. And of this is called now the highest level of Bria. And it's really in a sense that Bria becomes a throne, which we'll learn here in this chapter. Bria is called a throne for Atzilut that sits within the Holy of Holies of Bria. So also the Holy of the Holy of Holies of Yetzirah is the lowest level of Bria, comes into it and dwells within it. It's almost like your head, right? Your head is the highest level of your own world, but you become the container for a light, which is the bottom level of the world above you. And then you integrate that in yourself, and then you can, as you grow as a child, and as a young adult, and as you begin to actually get taller physically, but really what's going on is that you're becoming more capable of understanding things. They're giving you more mochin, they're called, intellect powers, consciousness, and your brain is developing to be able to contain those ideas, and that they shouldn't just be above you. There's always something above us. There's always something like, whoa, I don't understand that at all. Rabbi Nachman's Torah number 24 or 21, part 4 is called the Makifim, that there's always a new level of a horizon that opens up for you every time you get to the horizon that was a horizon. You did the horizon. This was the horizon. But wait a second, when I get here, a new horizon opens. Or we get to the top of this mountain, another mountain opens. That's the way Hashem made real. And then when you integrate that level within you, another. And you integrate that level and another. So it's a beautiful system of always opening up to higher levels.
Is this related to the Moshe reached like the 49th level?
Yefeh, good question. Moshe reached the 49th level of Bina, of understanding, just below the 50th. And here we're being told that he reached the highest level of Bria just outside of Atzilut. It's like a parallel teaching, huh?
Wasn't Bria Chachma?
Well, so it's two different systems. But it's in Bria and Bina, if you look at your chart, are corresponding to each other. So he got up to almost the top of Bina. He got to the top of Bria. So it's a very parallel teaching. Teachings, it's very, very nice what you said. So it says, okay, after this thing, he got up to the uppermost palace of Bria. This is a quote from the Rabbeinu Chaim Vital. For as is known, direct perception of Atzilut is not possible. Why? We have a verse. Lo yir'ani ha'adam v'chai. No man can see me and continue to live, i.e., continue to maintain existence in this physical world. The other prophets, including Yeshaya, Isaiah, perceived Atzilut as well, but different than Moshe, from below, fully clothed in the lights of Bria, whereas Moshe was at the top of Bria, and it was a transparent lens. He didn't have any, it was not a clothing of Bria, it was just Isaiah was within Bria and seeing Atzilut from within the Bria. We're trying to use words and just get a certain thing of relationships. So that's all he's saying is Yeshaya operated on a level below Moshe. Then after the destruction of the first temple, Ezekiel perceived Atzilut. Also, they all perceived Atzilut, but how close can you get? That's the question. He perceived Atzilut clothed in Bria, and Bria fully clothed in Yitzir, the lower level. Since then, since that time, which is the destruction of the first temple, the end of prophecy per se, revealed prophecy. Since then, the light of Atzilut and Bria has never been revealed to anywhere near the same degree. This is what our sages meant when they spoke about the three prophets who lived at the beginning of the second temple. After Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, prophecy was suspended and only Ruach HaKodesh, divine inspiration, remained. Just interesting, pure quote from the Ari. From Chaim Vital quoting his teacher, the Ari. So we'll get to this. What I wanted to do first is Rabbi Kaplan himself on page 30.
There's a lot of other levels that are in between there and here that we can achieve.
Yeah, there's sub-levels. That's why it's so nice. You'd think, oh, why do I need so many sub-levels? Like, just get me there. No, sub-levels are very nice. You don't have to grow in leaps and bounds. You can just go up little levels, and then when you fall, you'll fall a little bit and go up a little bit, and go up a little bit more and fall a bit, and then come up. It's like a gradated system. The Ari says that there's 5 levels of the soul. Each of them has 5. That's 25. Each of them has 5. That's 125. And there's what's called chitzoniyut and pinimiyut. So it's 250 levels of soul. Like, hello, why do you need so many? No, it's okay. It's really good. It means that we can get a little bit more, and we might not feel the difference, but it's a difference.
We can actually move.
What?
We can actually move.
We can actually move,
So
right?
5 levels. It's a move in most lifetimes.
Right.
From our perspective, are we seeing 4 levels of Kisei Kavod, or we're just seeing one through a continually distorted lens?
It's a good question. So Chaim David is asking, are there, as I said, that the higher level, the lower aspect, whatever we're going to call it, the malchut of the higher world, comes to dwell within the highest of the lower world. So that's the Holy of Holies, and comes in the higher level within it. And you can picture the Holy of Holies of the temple. It's why is the Holy of Holies so special to us? It's the room where the infinite entered into the world of the finite. It's where all the prophets got their prophecies, between the space between the Kruvim. So are there a lot of Holy of Holies all the way up, or is there? That's one way to look at it. That the answer would be yes. The Ari says in 2 places, one place being what's called Olat Tamid, bless you, a sefer that's said to be actually one of the few things that the Ari himself wrote. The most of it is called Olat Tamid. And in Olat Tamid, he says a very nice thing, that there's not 10 Sfirot in Atzilut, and 10 Sfirot in Bria, and 10 Sfirot in Yetzir, and 40 Atzilut. No, there's only 10 Sfirot, the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut. And they get clothed in the 10 garments of Bria, which are called the 10 Sfirot of Bria, but they're not. They're not a separate set. So he's a very nice thing there, that it's one single set, but there's covers. So you're learning today that the covers are, depending on us, they become more transparent or more opaque. That's how he made the world, so that we can access higher and higher levels when we clear ourselves. When we clear ourselves, we start to do stuff physically, our honesty in our business dealings, and our sexuality, and on our physical world. Then we start to clear our emotions, and most of us are like far away from this, but we got to start working on it. That our emotions are midot, right? And then we go up to our intellect. If we'd have to do everything before we get to Atzilut, we'd never get there. But Hashem gives us aspects of Atzilut even before we're, right? Because there was one great Rebbe called the Yaziditchover. He used to put a little bit of wine in his Kiddush cup, swish it around, pour it out, and pour in the wine. He says, Rebbe, what are you doing? He says, if we would have to wait to clean ourselves and to purify ourselves, to be ready to have the wine of Atzilut in our cups, you need Atzilut wine to clean your cup, to be ready to pour Atzilut wine in. It's very sweet teaching. So Hashem does give us. He gives us, and that's why they say, don't think you're on a higher level all of a sudden, because all of a sudden you're thinking about these things. No, Shemaim helps us. He wants us to keep in mind that being humble and being be careful, don't get the ego involved. This is a gift to be alive. It's a gift to be able to receive any of this. And the more we're appreciative of the gift, the more Hashem says, I want to give you more. Right? The Avot, Hashem said, I want to invest in you because you do good with what I give you. That's why Zocher Hastei Avot, Hashem remembers the chesed the Avot did. And he says, I like that. When you do good with what I give you, I want to give you more. So basically, at the top of 30, he repeats what we just said. For Isaiah, the light of Atzilut was completely hidden in the universe of Bria. Second line on 30, the universe of the throne. Ezekiel's vision of the spiritual dimension was further removed from Atzilut. For him, Atzilut was concealed in Bria, when Bria itself was concealed in Seir. Basically, he's just quoting almost word for word the Ari. It was Ezekiel who saw the vision of the chariot. The Kabbalists teach that Ezekiel envisioned all 4 lower universes, but the first and most prominent aspect of his prophecy was the 4 angels of Yetzirah, called Chayot. He's going to go into this whole thing. we'll read it. The term chayot means literally living creatures. Here I add that the word animal, which is the literal translation of chaya, I guess it's on page 1. No, it's on page 3. Page 3. No. Page. Somewhere I write. Something about this. That the word animal comes from animus. And animus in Latin is life force, animus. In that sense, that's why an animal is called an animal, because it has animus. It has life force. So it's not that the angels of Yitzhira are called chayot, animals, in any literal sense, right? Everything got changed around somehow. Okay. Whatever. I don't know what happened to it. Animus is in here somewhere. Maybe it's not important. So we're here on page 30. Living creatures, and the references to a certain type of angel particularly associated with God's providence. And he's going to talk more about this later on, so there's a footnote there. So, but he's basically giving us a little bit of a tour of Ezekiel's vision. An amazing thing happened that my wife at the time, my fiance, took me to meet Rabbi Kaplan when we were engaged in Brooklyn, and it was very special meeting him. He had a little tiny office, like it was totally small, in his apartment. It was lined with books, and on the bottom of the back of him was a shelf with notebooks. And before we left, we asked him, like, what are those? He says, well, those are books that I've written. It was back in 76, and he hadn't published a lot of his work yet, but it was already written. And I remember walking out and saying to my wife to be, you know, like there's these old actors and they make all these movies, and then all of a sudden they make one movie and then everybody wants to see their old movies. I think this is what's going to happen with him. He's so amazing. And that's what happened. He wrote all these amazing books. But then what happened, and the reason I'm telling you this, is that our Sheva Brachot, when he spoke, a very dear friend, Itzik, made a Sheva Brachos for us in Brooklyn in a basement. And Mayor Funt was there, and Arya Kaplan was there, and Shlomo. Huh? It's Itzik Eichenstein. And Shlomo came. And when Arya spoke, he spoke for like 40 minutes about Ezekiel's vision of the chariot, like the Sheva Brachos. And we had this, and we had it recorded. It was so amazing. Like he started off with it, making a connection to what Rabbi Fun said, but he just went off. And so it was so amazing to me that later on, independently of having known him and learned a little bit with him, and that we came to Israel, my wife and I came to Israel shortly after we got married, and we never saw him again. But this book was given to me as a transcript of classes, and that a really big part of this book is Ezekiel's vision. And so I just saw the amazing divine providence that this man spoke about this at our Sheva Brachot. It's out of this world. He was very humble, very special. So when he talked, I mean, here we made it into a book and we formalized it somewhat, but he's really talking. A lot of this is him talking and me just like, so that's how the book came to be. And then,
What did you do with these words? He was talking and you.
oh, so when the transcripts of the classes came to me, I know two other people had tried to make a book out of the classes, but nobody could get it clear what it's exactly how to do it. So I read everything he wrote, and I saw that everything he spoke about in class, that he had written about it somewhere. And so I added in what he wrote to what he said.
I see.
So he's talking here. Then, so Ezekiel sees Chayot, gazing, and they're the Chayot of Yetzirah. Gazing downward, the prophet saw Ophanim, literally the wheel angels of Asiya. Ezekiel thus says, I gazed at the Chayot, and behold, there was a single Ophan on the earth below near the Chayot. The prophet then looks up and sees a firmament over the heads of the Chayot. He gazes even higher and describes what he sees. Above the firmament that was over their heads, like a vision of a sapphire, was the form of a throne, and over the form of the throne there was a form like a vision of a man on it from above. We'll go into this. Here we are introduced to two new levels. First, the throne, and then the man upon the throne. The throne was in the universe of Bria, one dimension above Ezekiel's vantage point in Yetzirah. This is why he says the form of a throne. Then he sees the man. This was Ezekiel's vision of the Sfirot in Atzilut, 2 levels removed from his vantage point. It's therefore described as the form like a vision of a man. And you see what he's doing here? He's giving us a key. When you see something, and you say, I saw something like something, so you're one step away. Well, I saw something which is something like something. You're 2 steps away. And he says this famous thing here. To clarify, there's one more thing I missed. In Hebrew, this is demut mareh, a vision of a vision. A double, this is very important, a double refraction of an image. So as he peered into Atzilut, he saw the vision of the form of God's glory. I saw it and I fell on my face. To clarify this use of a double refracted image, we could use the analogy of a television monitor. It's as if Ezekiel was seeing Bria through a monitor in Yetzirah. On the screen of the monitor in Bria, he saw the image of yet another monitor. That was the form like a vision. And Atzilut was what's inside. So he sees the monitor. Within the monitor is another monitor. Within that is another one. And when that is the face of a man. Very creative way of giving us an analogy to the distance, so to speak, and the sense of that I'm seeing something, but it's very, very unclear, but I'm seeing it. I'm for sure seeing it. Now, what I want to show you is what I had to do with it. Now, years later, I wanted to clear up the language and to make it even crisper. So I want you to see what you have here. On page 1, you have the exact text of the first chapter of Yechezkel.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I get so involved, you know.
In the note that we read on page 7, it says that Ezekiel perceived actually clothed in Maria. That like garment is like the form of a form. It's like a different way to describe it.
Yeah.
So the other motor Levushim in general, also.
Levushim. That's how he starts out chapter 3. That's one of the metaphors used for how the worlds clothe each other. Okay, but don't go anywhere. It's a very amazing text here. The entire text, all the way through the entire chapter 1 and the first verse of chapter 2 of Yechezkel. Some very exciting stuff here. So then I go into the Malbim on Yechezkel. Very interesting way of describing and explaining the meaning behind Ezekiel's vision that you have here on page 2 and 3 and 4. Now I go back on page 4 to the main part of the vision itself. And so on the bottom of page 4, concluding Yechezkel's first vision. The form above the heads of the Chayot was that of a firmament. We don't know what that is. It's a rakia in Hebrew. The Malbim has what to say about rakia, but for right now we're just here. It looking like a fearsome ice spread out above their heads. Under the firmament, their wings were straight out, one toward another. For each, two covered them, their bodies, and for each, two covered them, their bodies. Whatever that means. Then I heard the sound of their wings, like the sound of many waters, like the voice of the Almighty when they went. The sound of their tumult was like the sound of an armed camp. When they stood still, they let down their wings. There was a sound from the firmament, which was above their heads. When they stood still, they let down their wings. It's like all kinds of information, and it's all very broken. Verse 26. Above the firmament that was over their heads, and I retranslated it different than what is here in page 30. So that's what I want to point out now. It should be like an appearance of a sapphire stone. That was the firmament over their heads was like an appearance of a sapphire stone. In Hebrew, kimar'e even sapir. So above the firmament that was over their heads, like I guess the appearance of a sapphire stone, that's the firmament. Above that was the likeness of a throne. In Hebrew, the al demut kisei, demut, likeness. The al demut kisei, and over the likeness of the throne, demut, which is one level, ke, 2 levels, mar'e, 3 levels. There was the likeness that was like the appearance of a man on it from above. So just wanted you to see that Rabbi Kaplan gave us a beautiful key to look at why these words are being used. He's being very careful to tell you, I didn't see anything directly. I saw it indirectly, but I can tell you what I saw indirectly. I saw very clearly there were 3 levels here, and I was removed from what I was seeing, 3 levels. Now, this gave me an insight into what we say when we say the Shema, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. So if you ask me, ask most people, what do you mean when you say, blessed is the name of the glory of the kingdom, or his kingdom, the glory of the name of the glory of his kingdom. So really, the truth is, Kabbalistically, they are synonymous. That Shem is a synonym with the glory, which you can, maybe it's here, it's somewhere for certain, it's a number of places in inner space. The glory is a code word for Malchut Atzilut. Kavod, the glory is a code word for and he brings this from Derech Hashem, which is a long chapter that what the prophet saw was the glory. It's called the Kavod. And they saw it, each one, some more distant, some closer. But what they saw was the glory. And that is a code word for the Shekhinah, which is a code word for Malchut. And so also when God's name is mentioned, Ata Echad B'Shimcha Echad, you are one and your name is one. What's his name? What's this thing of God's name? That's also so to speak, Hashem relative to his name, which is that which he uses to run the world. It's not a full revelation of who he is. It's a limited one. It's a constriction. Then it's called his name. And you have name all throughout the Siddur. And if you notice it, you should really notice one day how many times you say the word Shem. Shimcha. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh. Right? And I have like entire things written on this because this became like, what's going on here? Why is it? What is this thing of God's name? Anyway, Shem, Kavod, Malchuto. They're three synonymous things. So, blessed is the name, which is the outer covering of the glory of the Malchut. And blessed means may be revealed the name of the glory of the Malchut. Le'olam ba'ed, not only forever, but into the Olam, into the world, into the darkness of this world. May the revelation of the Shekhinah become more and more powerful. So you have, in a way here, a key to translate and to understand the code of Chazal, the code. You can ask somebody, what does Baruch Shem Kavod Olam Ba'ed mean? Well, it means blessed is the name of the glory of God's kingdom forever and ever. But what does that mean? Well, it means blessed is the name of the glory of God's kingdom forever and ever. It can go a million times. What does that mean? So the key is the word bless, to draw down into from a state of high to a state of imminence, to make it real right here, now. To be blessed means to become revealed more and more and more, increasingly revealed into the Olam, which is a hiddenness of this world, a world that hides God. And then it becomes that these three words are the covering should come off until it becomes so powerful that this world can't stay the world the way it is. And that's what we're praying for. Is may the revelation of your glory become so powerful that the hiddenness that hides you in this world no longer can do that. What'd you say?
So in other words, on Shabbos we become one, Echad, with Hashem and the Shekhinah. And what we hope is to bring that feeling of Shabbos into our life every day.
Excellent.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Great. Wait, but who are you?
Michelle Garland.
You are Michelle. Okay.
Here in the Hama.
Okay. Been quite a while, obviously.
Yeah.
A few years.
It's really nice to be here learning with you in person instead of just on the internet.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So there's all this stuff around this, but and you get more of Malbim. Malbim does an amazing thing. And then you have on the last page is the quote that we just read from Rabbi Kaplan, and a few other nice things that are here. I'd like you to really, take this and do it. Read more of the book, read this stuff. This is inner space 1 and this is inner space 2, right? This is just like, let's learn this stuff in a way that becomes our vocabulary is expanded, is grounded in real meanings. We know, and talk about it in a way that we can. This is the language of Rabbi Akiva. It's the language of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai of the Ari. We want to talk their language. We want to meet them. So I finished, and we still have a few minutes, so we can talk or sing.
So when you say Malchut Kavod Le'olam,
Malchuto Le'olam Ba'ed.
so Malchuto, it's Malchut, it's kingship.
Yeah.
So what about Olam? What does that
Le'olam Ba'ed.
correspond to?
Le'olam Ba'ed is to the world. First of all, Le'olam Ba'ed means forever.
Yeah.
And it also means to the world.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the third meaning. It's so you have time, Le'olam Ba'ed, and you have space, time and space. Two meanings of Olam. Space-time. That's a very beautiful word. Olam is space-time. It means that it has a time aspect and a spatial aspect. And the third meaning of olam is hidden. It's ne'elam. Ne'elam. So you get it here that olam baruch is Hashem is melech haolam, is the king who hides in his world. Ne'elam. He's the king who hides in his world. Misha amar dai la'olamo, Shaddai. Amar dai, amar dai. He said enough to olamo. What do you mean enough to his world? Enough to the concealment process that was because his light was becoming more and more concealed in the lower worlds. Enough. Up to a certain point, I want it to be hidden. If it's hidden too much, more than that, nobody will be able to ever get to me. Die. Enough. So olam is hidden. So if we want to bring the revelation of the Malchut more and more into olam, into the world that hides God, until the world can no longer hide God. So the relationship between Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which is actually in our Parsha, right? It was in last week's Parsha that Yaakov Avinu decided to say Shema Yisrael when he sees Yosef. You ever picture the scene? This is big field. That Yosef is there, right there, with all of the entire Egyptian army behind him, and all of the whole big stuff, right? Camels, whatever, horses, chariots. And here's Yaakov being carried in this beautiful thing by his sons. He's old, and he comes down, and they set him down there at this end of the field, and Yosef's here. Yosef starts walking towards him. There's a great scene in the movie. You can make the movie in your mind. He comes toward him, and all of a sudden he stops, and Yaakov, instead of looking at Yosef, closes his eyes, and the rabbis say that he started saying Shema. Now, it's not because it was Zman Kriyat Shema. Right? It's not. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that there's two reasons that are used of why Yaakov would choose this moment to say Shema. The moment he's seeing his son for the first time in 22 years.
He saw the joy, Lord, bring our joy back to Hashem.
Yefeh.
He lost the Shekhinah during that time.
Right.
And it came back to him.
Right. So, and you just can keep on. This is a really rich Torah. So I'll just add that there's a left-hand way of saying the Shema, and there's a right-hand way. The rabbis say in Sota, I think 45a, Hasmol doche, v'hayamin mikarev. Small, the left hand you use to push away, the right hand you bring to. So the left-hand level of Shema is, this is such a very powerful moment for me. I do not want to lose my connection with Hashem. I'm going to block out my son Yosef in order to connect to Hashem at this amazingly emotional moment. I want to connect to Yechida, Echad, because I don't want my son to get in the way. I obviously do not want to go to left hand. I went to the right hand, but I had to say it first. The right hand is, I'm going to use this moment with the love of my son is so powerful to get closer to Hashem than I've ever gotten my whole life. Whoa. Yeah.
So this week also we learned about the left and the right and the blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh. And we also learn he gives the bracha over to all of his sons. And we learn again the reappearance of the Shema Yisrael and the Baruch Shem,
The Baruch Shem.
Gemara from Psachim.
Psachim 56, right?
Yeah. And so he's worried that there's some sort of impurities in his progeny, in his boys, and the Shekhinah leaves him in that moment.
He feels he's just about to give his sons the blessings that he wants to give them, and he sees, oh my goodness, he feels something coming in, he feels the Shekhinah leave him, and he feels very, very fallen, very fallen. What do you want to say? Go ahead.
So I want to know the connection between sort of like the switch over of the hands and the connection between the left and the right, between the word Baruch and the idea of giving over the bracha, and how it keeps on going instead of from the Bachor to the second born. And like how Baruch and Bachor, like you just sort of switch
Okay,
over the
that's a bunch of
letters.
stuff. To simplify, no, that's great, but that would be a little bit more advanced than I want to say right now in the last few minutes, but it's beautiful. A lot of good stuff there. But the Gemara in Pesachim is such an amazing thing, I found 5 pirushim on it. The Maharsha, the Rav Chaim Volozhin, and the Nefesh HaChaim, the Malbim in one place, and the one that really does all of them amazing is Rabbi Nachman's pirush on that Gemara. I've translated it, I live it. It has to do with all of us. So what I'd like to share with you just briefly is that when Yaakov said Shema Yisrael, that was his big thing, to say Shema Yisrael Hashem, like he is Yisrael. He taught it to his sons, Yisrael, hear, O Israel. But when he said it, he didn't think of himself. He's thinking about the higher levels. And when his sons say it to him, when he feels all of a sudden something is missing, something's lacking, and he feels his stalka mimenu shechina, the shechina, the divine presence that he was just about to give over to them, the highest level. He's not only just going to tell them when the Geula is going to come, he wanted to bring it in right now, in my humble opinion. He wanted to bring it in right now. And then he felt all of a sudden it went up. And he was very somber, and they saw his face. And they said to him, Shema Yisrael, Dad, Hashem Elokeinu, Elokeinu is Gematria Emunah. Around the Emunah, that Hashem is our God, we're one. Okay, we're really problematic. We're volatile. We mamish have done things that we haven't even told you. Nobody told Yaakov what they did to Yosef. They couldn't tell him. 22 years they lived a lie. And now they're with their father and they're with Yosef and everything. And Yosef has not told their father. And they have. And it's incredible drama here. It's the maximum drama in the whole world. It's the whole world coming to its messianic conclusion. But anyway, so they say to him, Shema Yisrael, Abba, Mamish, this one thing, even though we're also problematic, we're all around this. Mamish, we're one with Hashem. And he said, his answer was, Baruch Hashem. So if I had another half hour, I would share with you exactly the Torah from Rabbi Nachman. I will either send it to you, or if everybody agrees, I'll share it with you next week. Whatever is good, I don't know. But Rabbi Nachman explains that Shema Yisrael is that he wants the Geula right now. But he didn't say it, they said it. And his answer was, no, it's going to take a long time because there's a lot of sparks that still haven't been redeemed. We would like it to be that Hashem reveals his oneness from above. And this overcomes all the barriers and all of the stuff that we have to go through and just, wow. But we're not on the level. It's not going to happen. So Baruch, Shem, Kivod, Machuto, the Olam Va'ed, it's going to take a long time because he wants us to do the work. So it's called Yichud Ila'ah, that the Yichud Ilah, the upper unification is when Hashem does it. And of course we all want that. And the lower unification is when he makes it dependent upon us. And it just goes on and on in depths of what's going on here. And the mashal that the Gemara says at the end, it goes through a whole discussion of but there's an oral tradition only that Baruch Shem. So then why do we say it? Because Moshe Rabbeinu did not write it in the Torah. But on the other hand, we can't not say it because Yaakov Avinu, this oral Torah, it's an oral Torah that Yaakov knew. He was the Shema Yisrael man and the Baruch Shem Kavod Maltol. So we can't not say it, but we can't say it explicitly because it's not in the Torah. So what? Okay, we'll whisper it in a hush, the chashai. We'll whisper it. Lemad Davadomeh, what's it like? Lebat Melech, to a princess. She'ahav tzike kedera. She loved what I call the burnt stuff at the bottom of the pot. The official translation is meat breads or whatever. I don't know what it is, but it's like stuff that the cook in the kitchen eats. And it's not really good that a princess likes this stuff because it's not lichvodah, it's not honorable for her. But so the Gemara says, but she wants it so much, and if she doesn't have it, it's like really hard for her. But she can't go there to the kitchen to eat it because she's a princess. So the servants understood this. They brought it to her b'chashai. They brought the tzika kedera to the princess in a hush. So there's different maforshim. Rabbi Nachman, the Reb Chaim Volozhin, the Maharsha, and the Malbim. The Rabbi Nachman goes straight to it. The Shechina is the princess, and she loves the tzika kedera, which are the souls, the holy and beautiful and pure souls that are in lower places, in ashrams, etc., 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 etc. You and me, guys, every single one of us. And she can't live without us, but she can't go there in a revealed way. She has to dress up in Shem, Kavod, Malchutot to go there because it's very dangerous. And the example, it's driving me crazy, but it's like we're in Nazi Germany, right? And we're in an attic, and we're waiting there, and you can't make noise because the SS soldiers are all around the place. And the knock on the attic comes. It's time. The boat is here. File out, single file through the streets. Not a noise, no cigarettes, nothing. Get into the boat and leave. The Shekhinah cannot manifest full. If the Shekhinah would manifest full force in that scene right now, that's the end of Nazi Germany, the end of the SS. It's all over. It's Shema Yisrael Hashem again. But Hashem says it's not. I can't do that. It's not time yet. It has to be a Baruch Hashem. It has to be hidden. The saving of the sparks of holiness has to be through mystery. Rabbi Nachman says through chashai, through in a hush. It's very, very important stuff for me. So take it. And if you want anything about it more than I can help, I'll give you what, but you have to write to me or call me. I will not send anything unless somebody asks me. But if you ask me, I will give as much as I can in the proper way that's good for you. It's very, very special stuff. So please, God, it'll be, we'll see it in our days. Thank you so much. Bless you. Okay. So let's just sing one song, easy song to stop, to conclude with. And I just heard Shlomo sing today. Melech Rachman Rachem Aleinu Melech Rachaman Rachem Aleinu Tov Umetiv Daresh Lanu Tov Umetiv Daresh Lanu Shuva Eleinu B'Hamon Rachamecha Shuva Eleinu B'Hamon Rachamecha na 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 na
People should sign